Hello everyone, it's Chef Jason Morse, owner of 5280 Culinary and your Ace Hardware Grill expert. And I'll tell you what, today we're talking about something that's really near and dear to my heart. That's right, we're talking about ribs. We're talking lip-smacking ribs on this recipe, on this Red Vest approved video. How can you get our Red Vest approved videos? Well, I'll tell you what, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the subscribe button on the Ace Hardware YouTube channel. You will be notified every time one of our Red Vest videos is live. Better yet, how do you get this recipe? Well, you can go to acehardware.com, under tips and advice, go into the little search bar and type in recipes. You'll find lip-smacking ribs, you'll find recipes like You're My Lobster, you'll find mac and cheese, all the great things that we have hosted you can find at acehardware.com. Well, I'll tell you what, when it comes to ribs, there's a lot of debate going on. Are you a baby back rib guy, or are you a spare rib kind of person? And I'll tell you what, that may not be an easy question to answer, but we're gonna do our best to answer that on this Red Vest approved video. But check it out, here's what we did as well. We printed out this little helpful thing from the old interwebs that tells you all about ribs. Where does the baby back come from? Where does the spare rib come from? Where do the rib tips come from? And more. So we're gonna do our food flyover next, which we do, and we'll talk a little bit about ribs, where this all came from, and then when we come back, we're gonna teach you how to peel the membrane, how to season them. And the best part, we're going through 3, 2, 1 ribs today on our Traeger. I've tried every rib recipe out there, and I tell you what, the Traeger delivers the best ribs, hands down, every single time. And like I said, we're going 3, 2, 1 ribs. We'll see you in a minute. Food flyover time. It's food flyover time. Show you a little bit of our rubs. We're gonna be talking about a couple of these. We're gonna be talking about all 3 of those sauces today. We're also gonna hit up our Traeger butcher paper. We're gonna come right back after we fly over these guys. We've got a couple different kinds of ribs. We've got our lip smacking rib recipe for you. We're gonna feature Oink and Rub-A-Dub as our 2 rubs. Look at this right here though. This is where we talk about classifying pork ribs. We found this guy on the internet, and look at that right up there. There is C and B, and what is C and B? Well, C is our baby back ribs, which are right up top along the spine, and B is our St. Louis, which come down a little bit more towards the belly. We've got our Gloveworks gloves we're gonna be showing off today. Of course, we're gonna need a pan to catch all the seasoning, but look at this right here. Here's the ribs. We've got our loin back ribs, and we've got our St. Louis style spare ribs. It used to be in the days of old, the prices were pretty far apart on these guys, with the baby back ribs being a little bit more expensive. Nowadays, because all thing pork ribs are in high demand, these prices are pretty much equal. One's $2.79 a pound for the baby back and $2.69 a pound for our St. Louis. Well, I always get the question, which do I like? I'll tell you what, let's go back over here. That right there, that's my rib. What do I like about it? Well, look at that baby back rib. A little bit leaner, right? A little bit smaller meat, a little bit thinner bones. What do I like about the Louis? I like the St. Louis style spare ribs because I get that true pork rib flavor. I get a little bit more pork fat, which never hurt anybody, right? In moderation. But I get a little bit bigger bone, I get a lot more meat. To me, this is my ultimate rib experience. But today, we're gonna cook them both for you on our Traeger. So that's our food flyover. Let's talk prep here in a minute, and we'll see you back when it's time to peel our ribs. Another difference in these ribs, look at that. Here's our baby back rib, and you can see how it's kind of curved a little bit, right? That's because it sits up on the top of the back. Then you get into our St. Louis that come a little bit around the side, down towards the bellies. They sit nice and flat. Well, guess what? See that shiny on here? That's gonna be our membrane, and we wanna get that peeled off. And I'm using a skewer. I can use a dull butter knife. Just be careful. Make sure if you take the butter knife out of your kitchen, you bring it back. I have been accused from time to time of not returning those butter knives, and yeah, I'll just admit, they've gone missing. But what I did was I took the skewer, I lifted up just a little bit. You can see I've got my hand in there, right? Or I have my thumb in there. I'm gonna make a little pocket here. Then I'm gonna take a paper towel and I'm gonna grab that membrane and peel that membrane off. And that's what you're looking for. That membrane, I think, adds a little bit of toughness to the ribs. If you leave it on there, I feel like the ribs bind up a little bit. And then if you miss a little piece in the back, you can always go right back. I go right along the bone, I lift up with that, and again, grab my napkin and peel that membrane off. Then, move into your baby back ribs, and it's the same thing again on here. Get under that, between that rib and between that membrane, and I lift up a little bit and work that membrane off as well. All right, well now, once you get that membrane peeled, what are we up to next? Well, next we're up to seasoning these ribs. All right, so a couple different schools of thought. You can season them quick and then add them into the smoker and finish them off. Or you can season them, let them sit for 5, 6, 7 hours. I like to season mine. I'm gonna go ahead and load them into this pan and let them sit overnight. When we come back, we're gonna season up our ribs and get ready to go. They're peeled, they're ready to go. We've got our pan ready. We're gonna use a little bit of our oink rub and a little bit of our rub-a-dub as well. And I mixed them together 50-50 in this bottle. And here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and season the ribs as light or as heavy as you want. And I'm gonna let that rib seasoning activate just a little bit. And what I mean by activate is I'm looking for that rib oink rub to get nice and wet. It'll get sticky and it'll start to pull into those ribs. Once that's done, guess what? I'm gonna season the bottom side as well. I really truly believe we need to get some flavor on both sides of those ribs. So we'll give a nice coating on this side and a nice coating on that side as well. And again, as light or as heavy as you want. And now, once I let these guys sit, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and put them in my pan, like I have here. And now I've got my ribs all seasoned. I can add another rack on top, which I'm going to do. We'll get these all seasoned up, and I'm gonna let them sit overnight because I really want that rub to activate and get into those ribs and get a lot of flavor going. So when we come back, we're gonna get ready to take these guys and add them to the Traeger, where we're gonna smoke them for the first part of our 3, 2, 1. And that's 3 hours of smoke. We loaded them in. The Traeger is all set and ready on smoke. Like I said, we set it at 180 degree smoke. This is going to be the next 3 hours of these ribs' life. They're going to enjoy 3 hours of smoke. What are we using for pellets? Well, we've got our signature blend pellet in here today, which is a really nice blend for us. We like the flavor it gives our ribs. We'll let these guys sit in here for 3 hours. We're not going to disturb them. We'll let them enjoy a little bit of smoke. And we'll be back here after 3 hours to get ready for the 2-hour part. And we'll see you soon. Look at the absolute smoke coming on the top of those ribs. Like I said, these have been in for an hour and a half. That's our St. Louis at an hour and a half, and then let's drop down here and look at our baby back. I'll tell you what, another hour and a half of smoke, and we'll get ready to wrap these guys and finish them off, but wow. Well, here's a chef tip for you. Let's say you want to add a little bit more moisture to these ribs, right? You're thinking, hey, I want them to be a little bit juicier. I want them to be a little bit sweeter. Here's what I would do. You can always take a sprayer or a mister, a spray bottle, and spray this down with a mixture of apple juice or apple cider, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and maybe a little honey. A word of caution for you. I don't get too sweet if I'm gonna spray these. If I wanna spray my ribs down, I focus more on the moisture. I will do just apple juice because there's already enough sugar in that apple juice and it won't cause the ribs to burn. Well, we went ahead and cut our butcher paper into 6 pieces. We have 6 racks of ribs. We need 6 pieces of butcher paper. I like to cut it ahead of time, have everything laid out. I have my barbecue sauce ready to go. I have my ribs over here. Now what I have is a great little station. So I'm gonna take the first St. Louis over. We're getting ready now to do step 2 of our 3, 2, 1 ribs. And this 2 is going to be butcher paper covered for 2 hours at 225. Well, what I'm gonna do is add just a little bit of barbecue sauce to the top. Then what I'll do is I'll flip it over. Now, I'm gonna do a nice little envelope fold on my ribs with my parchment paper to make sure that these guys stay nice and covered. And then I'm gonna continue to do this for the next 6 racks of ribs so that all of my ribs are set and ready to go, wrapped in butcher paper. The difference between butcher paper and foil is the butcher paper breathes, which is gonna allow a lot of that moisture to escape, and it's still gonna give us a really nice bark on our ribs. If you like your ribs a little more tender and you want them a little more fall off the bone, I would suggest wrapping them in foil. It'll act as a steamer and help cook those ribs a little bit more. When I eat a rib, I like that rib to pull a little bit. I like a little bit of texture, a little bit of chew to it. That's why I like the butcher paper. It gives it bark, gives it a little bit better texture. Well, we're gonna finish wrapping these guys and then we'll be back and load these back onto our Traeger for step 2, which is the 2 hours of cook at 225. All wrapped up and ready. So the next part of this rib video will be 2 hours, right? That's the 2 hours we cook these at 225. wrapped up. We added a tiny bit of moisture in there. The beauty, again, like I said about that butcher paper, we're gonna have a little bit of bark. We're gonna get a little bit more texture and a little bit more chew to our ribs. So now that we've got them wrapped up, we'll see you in 2 hours when it's time to uncover these babies and finish them with our last part of the 3, 2, 1, which will be 1 hour to finish the ribs off and get them right where we need them before we devour all 6 racks of these ribs. We'll see you in a couple hours. Okay, well, the 2 hours is done and it's time to finish the last one. So we pull our ribs out of the Traeger, we unwrap them from the paper, and look at that right there. That is exactly what we're looking for. We've got a beautiful 2 hours of finish where we have them wrapped. We have that awesome 3 hours of smoke, and what we're gonna do is finish our last hour uncovered and on the Traeger. Now, you could sauce these a little bit more if you want them to glaze, but look at that. I think we've got enough glaze on here just with the initial sauce that we put on there. I'm gonna leave them alone. Why? Well, we have 3 amazing barbecue sauces that I love to serve on the side, so I really like to make my ribs neutral, put a few different sauces on the table, and let everybody kind of pick their favorite rib flavor to finish it off. Well, look at that. We've got such beautiful color on these ribs. And again, we've got baby backs and we've got St. Louis on there. So you look at that nice flat rack. That's our St. Louis style. Look at that little bit of curved rack. That's our baby back. And again, this is the final step of our 3, 2, 1 ribs. This is the 1 hour of glaze. So we're going to jump the heat up just a little bit. We're going to get these guys rocking and rolling. And you look at, we've done this nice and low and nice and slow, and we don't have a lot of shrink, which means we're gonna have a really juicy rib. We locked in all that moisture when we wrapped it. We developed that beautiful 3 hours of smoke. Now it's up to the Traeger, the last hour, to take us home. We're gonna leave these unglazed, and like I said, we're gonna finish them on the table with our favorite barbecue sauces. So let's cover this guy back up. We'll see you in an hour. Here we have it. Look at the final results here. I mean, that's our St. Louis, and look at that. We took it so low and so slow that we barely have any shrink on the bone. That is beautiful. That's gonna give us a lot of meat. And I'll tell you what, I look at how much shrink I have, and that correlates to me and sometimes how dry it is. The more shrink I get, they sometimes seem to be a little tougher and a little more dry. Look at the baby back. That came out beautiful. We have excellent color on here, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So now what we'll do is we're gonna cut these real quick, but wait a minute, guess what? We haven't sauced these yet. Well, like I said before, I don't sauce these while they're on the Traeger, right? Because we've got 3 of our sauces. There may be some other sauces we're trying. There might be some spicy honey or something that we want. I really love the beauty of a neutral rib so that my friends and family can finish these guys off and taste exactly what they want. If we want a low country, or we want a spicy red, or we want an Asian style, or we want a honey, having a neutral rib really gives them the opportunity to do exactly what they want with these ribs. All right, give me a second. We're gonna get these guys cut. Look at that, St. Louis. Look at that absolute beautiful smoke ring we've got in there. And the best part is, look at that. Look at the juices coming out of there. This is a beautiful, juicy rib. One of the reasons I absolutely adore St. Louis style spare ribs. I get a ton of juice out of there. I get an absolutely beautiful rib, and it just tastes, it in my opinion, tastes fantastic. Let's cut into these baby backs a little bit here. So as you can see on the baby back, really a beautiful smoke ring, but look at the difference in meat, right? I have the baby back on the bottom, and I have the spare rib on the top. And you can tell that spare rib's got a lot of meat, a lot of juice. The baby back tends to be a little bit leaner. Like I said before, leave these guys neutral, don't put any sauce on them, and now everybody can sauce them to order. Guess what? This Red Best approved video is finished. We are done. These ribs came out fantastic, and like we talked about earlier, it's really the same price for these ribs, right? Per pound, we paid the same. The cooking process is the same, but guess what's different? The flavor. Here we've got our St. Louis. They tend to be a little meatier, a little juicier, a little bit more of that beautiful pork fat. And our baby backs tend to be a little bit leaner. We left it open with sauce. We didn't sauce them because we don't know if you want a little bit of low country, or we don't know if you want a little bit of high altitude, or maybe you have your own special barbecue sauce you create. But I'll tell you what, this is fantastic. These 3, 2, 1 ribs nailed it, right? 3 hours of smoke, 2 hours of wrap, 1 hour of finish. We did it. It's done. Congratulations. You just graduated from rib school. And I'll tell you what, how do you find our recipe? Once again, you can go to acehardware.com, under the tips and advice tab. In the search bar, type in recipes. You'll find this recipe and more. We have a ton of recipes hosted there for you to make you that backyard grilling legend, right? You want your ribs to be the talk of the town? We're gonna help you with that again. We also have this great little picture that really talks about classifying pork ribs as well. How do you know when our next video is coming? Guess what? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends, tell your family, click the subscribe button. The next time we go live, guess what? You're gonna get an email and it's gonna tell you, hey, Chef Jason has another video for you teaching you more ways to use the cooking tools we sell here at Ace Hardware. So once again, I'm Chef Jason Morris, your Ace Hardware grill expert and the owner of 5280 Culinary. And I'll tell you what, thank you for spending time again. We love it when you cook with us. We enjoy hanging out with you. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.